Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a term that was coined in the 1970s to describe the condition formerly known as shell shock. Symptoms include flashbacks and nightmares, difficulty falling or staying asleep, anger and hypervigilance. In my work with people who've suffered serious trauma, I'm constantly amazed at the wide range of responses people have to what happens to them. With soldiers in particular, I've noticed that two people can go through the same horrific ordeal and yet come away with completely different experiences. The difference comes in the way that they interpreted the events. That is, in the particular combination of images, sounds, words, and feelings that their brain has used to represent the memory. This is why some people are left in a world of waking nightmares by a traumatic incident, and others bounce back seemingly more resilient than ever before. While we might think that stress would be the natural consequence of having gone through an extremely traumatic event, I've had the opportunity to see up close how a shift in the perception of an event really can make the difference between heaven and hell in terms of our response to that event. I was at a dinner party a few years ago and I noticed the lady sitting opposite me looked stressed and unwell. When I asked her what was wrong, she explained that she'd recently been in a motorcycle accident in Thailand. She said that she couldn't stop thinking about it and hadn't slept properly in over 2 weeks. While this was clearly a horrific incident, I could see that she was now physically okay. This let me know that the only reason she was still so disturbed was that her internal representation of that event was not a useful one. When I asked her what specifically she'd been thinking about that was upsetting her, she told me that she kept seeing her boyfriend on the ground with the bike on top of them and loads of blood all around. As she spoke, she gestured so that I could see exactly where she was making the pictures. And from the way she talked about it and the emotional reaction she was having, it was clear she was associated into the picture and running it like a movie in her mind over and over again. Even though the accident had only happened once in the real world, she'd relived it in her imagination over and over again. I asked her to stop and float out of the picture so she could see the back of her head as she sent the still image of that unhappy memory far away across the other side of the room. She began to see it almost as though it was happening to somebody else. Then I asked her to shrink the image down to the size of a postage stamp and drain all the colour out so it became like an old black and white photograph. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked relaxed. I then used a special technique developed by my friend Dr. Richard Bandler to permanently disconnect the feelings of upset and trauma from the memory of what happened. When she was disassociated from the traumatic movie, I asked her to play it backwards as fast as she could, from the point just after the trauma was over, so she could see she'd survived it, all the way back to the moment before it occurred. We did this several times, faster and faster, until it recoded the experience in her mind. She could still remember what happened, but she could no longer get upset about it in the same way. Although she still knew something bad had happened, she was no longer a victim of it. The whole thing took about 10 minutes, not 10 months of therapy, not even 10 seconds of re-experiencing the pain of the traumatic event. She called me a couple of weeks later and said she'd been sleeping fine and she was no longer haunted by the memory. While not everyone can change every traumatic memory quickly, it's surprising how often people can. I never cease to be amazed how quickly a human being can change when the right approach is used. While dealing with trauma requires professional assistance, you can use this same technique to free yourself from any recurring or persistent memories or worries. If you suspect that you are suffering from the after effects of a trauma, you should seek professional advice. Don't use the following technique, and if you're in doubt, just consult your doctor or medical professional. So imagine you're in a comfortable cinema. Sit down in the most comfortable chair you can find. You know, the one that you can normally fall asleep in. Now, imagine floating out of your body and all the way to the back of the cinema and into the projection room. So you're looking at the back of your head way down there from the projection room at the back of the cinema. In a moment, you're going to watch a film of an unhappy or unpleasant memory. Before you do that, mark 2 points on the film. The first point is the moment this unhappy, unpleasant memory was over and you know you survived it. Take a moment to do that. Mark that point on the film. Now, without looking at the movie, I want you to mark the point on the film of the moment just before it occurred. Now, again, without looking at the movie, go to the moment when it was all over and you survived it. And look at that moment, and in fact, now drain all the color out of the movie, so it's in black and white. Turn the sound off. And from up here in the projection room, look down at the back of your head, looking up at that movie in black and white. And now, I want you to run that movie backwards really, really fast from the moment after you know you survived it all the way back to the moment before it occurred. Run it backwards really, really fast. Now all the characters are moving backwards, everything's happening back and white, all the way back to the very beginning. That's it. Just keep running really, really fast, really, really fast. When you're back at the very beginning, that's it. Then just stop. And then go to the moment after you knew you survived it. And in black and white, way down there on the screen that you're looking at, run it backwards at twice speed. Now all the characters are moving backwards, everything's happening backwards in black and white. That's it, all the way back to the very beginning. Just keep running really, really fast. That's it. Really fast. And when you're back at the very beginning, then just stop. Now, let's do it again. Go to the moment after you know you survived it. You can see yourself way down there looking up at the screen, and run the thing backwards in black and white, faster and faster and faster, until you're just not upset by it anymore. Now, think about that event now. What's the difference? It should be pretty much insignificant. You can remember what happened, but just don't feel upset about it. If not, practice this technique again. Make sure you're going through all the steps correctly. Doing this process recodes the unpleasant memory. So what you're doing is you're delinking the thought from the feeling. You'll be able to remember that something unpleasant went on, but just won't upset you as much. So these are your actions for today. Continue repeating this exercise. Take some unpleasant memories from the past and go to the cinema inside your imagination. Float out of your body, go to the projection room, put on the screen 2 points. Go to the moment after you survived this time and you knew you're okay, all the way back to the moment before it occurred, and then run the thing backwards in black and white, faster and faster and faster, and do so until you can think about something that used to upset you and you're not upset about it anymore. Please share your successes with your tribe and remember to use the hypnotic audio trance for some everyday bliss. See you tomorrow.